So, over the past month, we had to research about a revolution, because that was the topic of the unit. So I went with the French Revolution, because I thought it would be easy to research, because I wanted to learn more about France's rich history. Anyway, it wasn't enough to simply research about the French Revolution. I had to focus on something more specific. So I presented myself the question, what social, political, and economic impacts did the French Revolution have, and how have they affected modern-day France? Basically, I need to find out the impacts of the revolution, and find out how much they contributed to making France as it is today. Now, all I had to do was to find the answers to my question, and in order to do that, all I had to do was research. So, I'd completed all my research, and it was time to talk about the facts. First off, I will give an overview of some notable events that happened, the stuff that would take you like 2 minutes to Google. The American Revolution had just ended, and France was all out of money due to aiding the Americans. King Louis XVI's outrageous spending habits didn't help either. He was wasting national money on useless things and services, and he had almost no knowledge on how to rule a country. Guess he should have taken the How to Rule a Country class from today's sponsor, Skillshare. To make matters worse, the peasants were suffering from famines and insanely high taxation.
What? No, you can't tax me for this.
I'm sorry, ma'am, I see you have a husband, so there's a tax for that. That's just how it is, I'm afraid.
But my husband is dead.
So basically, something had to be done. And quick. A meeting with the three major groups of the population, clergy, nobles, and middle class and below, was held on May 5th, 1789. This is the day which the French Revolution starts. Changes were proposed and votes were held. However, voting was based on status and not number of people, so it went something like this. Who agrees to continue taxing the poor? Oh, we do. Okay, who doesn't want to keep taxing the poor?
Yeah, we don't like
taxation.
it.
Yeah,
You know,
honestly,
my
we're really
husband is
dying on
literally
this.
dead.
Stop taxing us. Alright, so, let's see. 2-1, so we're gonna keep taxing the poor. Dude, why do we keep losing all the votes? Because you're losing 2-1 every time. We literally make up 98% of the population. You know that, right? Various. The middle class went to form the National Assembly in an indoor tennis court on June 17th. They made an oath to keep meeting until the royalty were overthrown. We shall not separate, and to reassemble whenever necessary, until the constitution of the kingdom is established.
Yeah, that's what I've been waiting for.
Yeah. Gee, this sure is going well. I hope we don't get taken over by radicals or anything. Spoiler alert, they do. After King Louis XVI was kidnapped and publicly executed by the radical Jacobin Club on January 21st, 1793, it started a period known as the Reign of Terror. The Jacobin Club took over the National Assembly and started publicly executing anyone that was even suspected of opposing the revolution, until their leader, Maximilien Robespierre, was executed on July 28, 1794. Around 17,000 people were publicly executed. After the Jacobins were overthrown, the French Directory took their place. However, it was really bad and riddled with corruption, and then a certain military general known as Napoleon Bonaparte overthrew them with his army on November 9th, 1799. Then, he was appointed as the first consul of France and ended the French Revolution. The Napoleonic Code, or officially known as the Code Civil des Français, was a codification that was completed and signed by Napoleon Bonaparte in 1804. He felt that the Napoleonic Code was the first step to bringing order back to France. It had contents regarding things such as providing laws on commercial and criminal affairs and the abolishment of feudalism. Another great thing was meritocracy, where people were selected for positions of power based on their merit and talent instead of status alone. However, the code had some not-so-nice things about it as well. For example, it talked heavily about equality, but that really only applied to men. Women more often than not got the short end of the stick in situations such as divorces or custody. But that was around 200 years ago. Today, the Napoleonic Code, along with many other French codes that were enacted over time, have been heavily amended to fit into France's current society. In fact, the Napoleonic Code today is around 3,000 pages long, and that's only the small version. The Napoleonic Code is also the base of laws in multiple countries today. Anyways, it's safe to say that the Napoleonic Code has withstood the test of time and is still relevant in modern-day France. Back when King Louis XVI was wasting money and causing economic ruin for his country like the doo-doo head he was, central banking wasn't really a thing. But when everyone's favorite Napoleon Bonaparte became the first consul of France, he formed the Bank of France in 1800. He gave his supporters who worked in banking ownership of the bank. Before, the bank in Paris used to be the only place where money could be distributed. However, in 1848, money was being issued from major cities throughout the country. In 1945, the bank was finally nationalized, meaning that it was now under control of the government. Then, the bank helped France move from French francs to euros as their currency in 2002. The Bank of France is still the central bank today, and both before and now play an extremely important role for France's economy. The Napoleonic Wars were a series of wars that started with the end of a treaty between France and Britain in 1803 and ended with the battle between France and Britain in 1815. The Napoleonic Wars had Napoleon Bonaparte fighting against the coalition forces of the Napoleonic Wars. Quite a bit happened, so here's a quick rundown. War of the Third Coalition. Napoleon wins. War of the Fourth Coalition. Napoleon wins. War of the Fifth Coalition. Napoleon wins. War of the Sixth Coalition. Napoleon wait. Oh, he didn't win that one. The 100 Days War. Alright guys, watch this. Napoleon's definitely gonna make a comeback. I just know it. Let's just see who he's up against. Oh, that didn't end well. So, Napoleon was removed from his throne, and France didn't gain any land. Actually, France lost land by selling Louisiana to America. Oh, also, did I forget to mention that royalty was back, with King Louis XVI's brother in charge this time? So then, what did the wars do for France? Well, to be honest, the wars themselves really didn't do much for France today. It was more of the little things that Napoleon did for his country during the wars, such as the Napoleonic Code or the Bank of France, which I've already talked about earlier. However, that doesn't mean that the wars didn't have any impacts at all. The wars revolutionized new military tactics. Heck, France isn't even done with revolutions, they had 2 more! It's just that these impacts affected other countries more, or didn't really have that much of an impact to modern-day France either. The French Revolution sure is something. And to summarize, what I've learned is that the Napoleonic Code and Bank of France have contributed much to modern-day France, and still exist today. And the Napoleonic Wars, while majorly impacting other European countries, didn't bring all too much change to France itself. So, to answer my research question, the French Revolution has had a considerable impact on modern-day France, but surely not as much as something such as the American Revolution had on America itself. The Revolution isn't the only crazy event that happened in France's history, however, and if you want to know more, go read a Wikipedia article about it or something.